Okay, Podsters, this is it. This is your tipping point, your moment to take action or live with never knowing what could have been. We all have that thing that we know we are meant to do that scares us, that we're not sure we can do, and that we know we need a little help doing. My Do the Thing Fall Retreat is happening October 13th through 15th in where else? Cape Cod, in the tranquil seaside town of Truro, where I've hand-selected a beach house for 9 like-minded women to get together and do the thing. You already know that there's a life waiting for you on the other side of this thing. And this powerful, intimate 2.5-day workshop is exactly what you need. If you don't do it now, you probably never will. Don't live with regret. Do the thing. Click the link, fill out the very brief application. Let's hop on a call because I want to make sure it's the right fit for you. Together, let's do the thing. Welcome to Unmute Yourself, the podcast. I'm Nancy Medoff, keynote speaker, best-selling author, executive coach, and equity evangelist who literally wrote the book on women in confidence.
And I'm Beth Knaus, creative copywriter who works with female entrepreneurs who are done putting safe and general content out there and ready to walk the fine line between honoring their bold voices and perspectives and honoring their professionalism. We are on fire and on a mission to inspire and empower you, and who are we kidding? The world, to speak up, stand out, and get your seat at the table. If you're looking for straight talk and a weekly shot of confidence, you've landed in the right place.
Beth and I met while collaborating on my #1 bestseller, Unmute Yourself and Speak Up to Stand Out. We hit it off and we knew right away that we needed to keep these important conversations going so that women around the globe will speak up and stop building our own glass ceiling. So here we are, coming at you weekly with a perfect blend of realistic strategies, actionable tools, and real life stories to bring these important and somewhat controversial ideas to life. Doing so with humor, kindness, and the occasional shenanigans.
Get ready to feel empowered and inspired to speak up, to stand out, and to build your confidence toolkit. Note to men or women who are not working in a professional capacity, we see you too, and we promise you the conversations here will inspire you as well. So buckle up, folks, because here we go.
Hello, Podsters.
How is everyone this week?
I have to tell everybody, Beth, that Beth and I were we chat a little bit before we record the podcast, and we were on such a roll that we were like, we have to start recording because we were getting silly and having fun. And I'm like, we can't miss this. So you guys are hearing it firsthand. Are we 100% ready? Maybe not, but we felt that the Podsters should be able to enjoy the shenanigans.
That's right. Our energy is ready. And I just want everyone to know that I think that Nancy was pressuring me a little bit before we got in here about having better headsets.
Pressuring you at all? Oh, so let me explain. Wow, she is throwing the gauntlet. So I said to Beth, as all of you may know, my new favorite podcast is Unmute Yourself, the podcast. And Beth scooted closer to the mic and said, I have to scoot closer so I don't sound far away. And I said, well, actually, you did sound far away when I was listening. So if you interpreted that and internalized that as impacting your self-worth, if you don't have a headset, that sounds like a you problem.
I
love that.
I think you're intimidating me right now.
So I've been trying to use that sounds like a you problem at least once a day because I love it. It's so empowering, isn't it?
It is so good.
Should we tell the Podsters about who our special guest is today?
Yes, it's a shame they can't see him, but Zorro the cat has been coming up to my office. I feel like I'm getting looked after, checked out, reviewed, making sure I'm doing my work. Although he doesn't show up usually till about noon. But which is when we're recording. But yep, he's here, making sure I'm doing the right thing.
Zorro's here. He's here. I'm trying to start a timer and I can't. So we're going to dive right in because this is hot. This is a hot topic. So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, we're going to talk today about bullying. And there's bullying's everywhere. There's bullying at home. There's bullying at work. There is self-bullying and how we speak to ourselves, which is important. And it might get a little raw, I'm not going to lie. So last week, we talked a little bit about it and we said that it was going to be a future episode. So Beth and I both feel strongly that this is really important to talk about and for a number of reasons. So we're going to dive right in. But before we do,
yes,
quick shout out. So I've decided that when people send me emails and tell me they love the podcast, I'm going to shout them out. Okay?
Excellent.
Sapana, thank you. She responded to one of the community emails I sent out and said, I've been listening to your podcast and I love it. And I say, I love you, Sapana. Thank you for the feedback. So guys, we record this and it goes out into a black hole and we don't know who's listening and who's not. So we love to hear from you. So please keep telling us that you love us. Okay? Okay.
And if you know Sapana, give her a big hug for us.
Yes, a big one. Okay, so a huge one. Beth, you want to start? I'm like on a tangent here. I'm discombobulated. So why don't you start and get us going and I'll kick it in.
So this is, I think, really important for bullying. So when Nancy first brought this up, I mean, you hear our personalities on here. I'm thinking, who the heck is bullying Nancy? Right?
Oh.
Why is bullying like a topic that she really wants to talk about? But once I started to think about it, I just did some really quick research just to get some ideas and points that resonated with me. And the first thing that came up, there are articles on CNN, Real Simple Magazine, Psychology Today, and there's actually a government website, stopbullying.gov. This is a serious thing. And I think a lot of people don't talk about it because I think, first of all, it depends on your age and the situation you're in, because we think of bullies as being in school, I think, with kids, but there's bullies at all ages. And we're either embarrassed that we're letting somebody make us feel that way, or as kids, you're scared because you don't want the bully to kick your butt because you told somebody they were bullying you. But I also think sometimes we're not sure. Sometimes there's this gray area and we might be like, well, that person's just a 24/7 jerk and I need to toughen up and get over it. But at the end of the day, every time that person, bullies you, which, could be a matter of intimidating you or joking in a really kind of icky way or saying something to you when you're alone to make you feel bad or speak down to you. There's so many ways that bullies bully. Some are very direct and some are passive aggressive, that afterwards you say to yourself, was that real? Like, is that a thing? So I think that, people need to be validated. Like, if someone is not treating you the right way, consistently, I want to say consistently, because do we all have a day where maybe we're a jerk and we say something we shouldn't say? Absolutely. But I think we try not to do that, or we apologize afterwards if we let it slip out. But somebody who continually acts that way, it's a problem, and you should not have to take up mental space with the feelings that it's creating for you.
Boom. I love it. I don't love it, but I like the tee up. So I totally agree. And as you were speaking, by the way, I also noticed, I love listening. One of the reasons I love listening to this podcast is because I love listening to Beth, because as Beth is talking, as a co-host, I'm listening and I also am thinking about what I'm going to say. It's a podcast. I have to be ready to say something. So I don't fully get the impact all the time of what she's saying. So I love going back because I'm like, wow, that was a great nugget. So I'll probably go back and listen to that again.
Awesome.
And as you were talking, what I was thinking was two things. One, intentional. right? It almost doesn't matter, right? Did you intend to bully the person? And when I share my story, I think I don't think this person intended to bully me. Does it matter? Technically, probably. It doesn't matter though. Like it doesn't matter. So the definition of bullying or bullying is seek to harm, intimidate, or coerce. Harm, intimidate, or coerce. I would love to add on purpose to that definition. However, I don't think we can, because I don't think it matters. I think there are some times when I might go at someone and I might intimidate them. For example, when Beth felt intimidated because I was telling her something about her headphones. It doesn't matter if it was intentional or not, right? And she's laughing, by the way, guys. It doesn't matter if it was intentional or not. So it might not have been intentional, but the harm and the intimidation is there. Not obviously I'm tongue in cheek about the headphones. So anyway, I don't know that it matters. Do you think it matters if it was intentional or not, Beth?
I think extra points taken off for intentional, but I don't think it's great for unintentional either.
Right. Like you're a bully, right? Right. So the reason why this is particularly hot for me these days, and if you aren't in my email community or my confidence community, I encourage you to get in there, because this one was big and this one was raw. Did you see it yet, Beth? Are you on my list? Are you not on my list?
I am on your list. I wonder if I didn't read it yet.
Came out last night. Anyway, it is traumatic. It happens to everyone. It has the potential to impact the rest of our lives and our self-perceptions. And it, particularly for women, now, this doesn't mean men get bullied as much as women do. And in some cases, it's even worse because they're just told to suck it up, right? We talked about that in our episode about the men. So I started thinking about this because I put together a slide for one of my speaking gigs, and I'm using it in all of them now. And it's a big image of a Samsonite luggage. Remember the big Samsonite suitcases, those big hard case suitcases from the 70s? And then on the luggage or on the baggage is a bunch of stickers. Remember the stickers that people used to put on their luggage? And each one of those stickers is children should be seen and not heard, you're bossy, you're too aggressive, tone it down a notch, and all the different things, particularly women, have been told. And the intent of this slide is to demonstrate to everybody that we all have baggage. Every one of us has baggage. And when it comes to confidence and speaking up, every woman you work with, I guarantee you, has something from something she was told or made to feel that she is bringing with her. I don't care if it's Beyonce. I don't care if it's Beyonce. There are moments when she is not confident, and I guarantee you they go back to how she was treated at some point. The reason why this is hot now and why I put myself out there, and it was very vulnerable, this email. Like I almost didn't send it. I almost didn't send it because I'm like, this is very raw. I might get emotional. I know I say that every episode, but I really might. Anyway, I was delivering a workshop to Puma last week. Hey, Puma, women of Puma, we had a great workshop. So in this workshop, one of the attendees, I'm not going to say her name, we were doing the exercise where you step into your strength. Here's why it matters, and so what. She could not come up with one strength, not one. So that in itself is kind of, you have to kind of take a step back. It happens often. It happens often when I speak or coach people, and I have to coax them usually. So this was not working. She could not come up with one. And the woman next to her said, well, I know what her strength is. And she said, she's great at breaking down silos, which means that we can streamline our processes. And because we can be so streamlined, we are fast to market in a very competitive market industry. Boom, right? Drop the mic. The whole crowd went wild. People were clapping like it was amazing. And this woman burst into tears.
Oh.
And I had to take a step back. And I had to, I was on stage, so I had to really pull it together. And I was thinking to myself, imagine what this woman has been told her whole life, or recently, or it doesn't even matter when, that she was not emotionally ready to accept a compliment like that, and to accept that here's what you do, here's how it helps us, and you're a badass. She couldn't process it. And it broke my heart, because I was like, oh my God, you give me a compliment, I'm going to be like, I'll probably dismiss it, which is a whole nother episode, but it's not gonna get to my core like that. And I was like, wow. And it brought me back to some other stuff, which I'll get into in a minute. So I'm going to pause for a minute, give Beth a chance to talk. So what do you think about that this woman, she just started crying when somebody gave her that compliment?
Yeah, I think you're right. Imagine the things she must keep inside, the things she thinks not only about herself, but about talking positively about her strengths and abilities, right? I mean, I feel like there's so many spots where women are told to not look strong or capable. Don't, our parents, our grandparents, we go back to this all the time, where it's like, oh, don't, if you are better at something than the man, don't show it. Don't show it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, who knows what she grew up with? And maybe it's got nothing to do with that, but maybe one other thing happened to her that shook her confidence, and she didn't deal with it.
Really?
That she works with, who sees her kind of from an unbiased view, right?
100%. Yeah.
Just says this amazing thing about her so quickly, and she can't say it about herself.
Right?
Hard.
It's really hard, and it broke my heart. So I said that, that's it. I'm gonna a couple days later, I'm like, I'm gonna put this story out there. Again, I think that I know that we all have baggage that we take with us, and I personally believe truly believe it goes back to our childhood. I do. I really do. It sounds so cliche, but I do. So before I get into my story, there's different kinds of bullying. So there's bullying at work and there's bullying at home. And I have another friend, and she listens to this podcast, and I did not ask her permission to use this story. I'm going to use it anyway. I'm not going to say who it is. She is a powerhouse. She is a woman that I think is amazing. She's awesome. And out of the blue, she got a non-favorable review. Out of the blue. Didn't know it was coming. Completely blindsided her, right? And I was thinking to myself, that's kind of this boss, she's kind of a bully. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm stretching. I'm thinking to myself, you're a leader, right? And your job is to nurture and grow your people. You have a performance issue, real or not, that this person is not brought to her attention until it's documented and in your file. So again, harm, intimidate, or coerce. That's harmful. I'm sure she felt intimidated. And not only that, it's just general shitty management. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, that is shitty. And not only that, that's definitely premeditated, because I know you have managed people before. You most likely have had to let people go. I had a business and I had to let people go. And I know if you're thinking about it, you technically have to have some sort of proof or something or whatever. You have to create a trail. And it sounds like this person probably created a trail, but that doesn't mean the trail was created on factual limitations at work. Right? If you don't like someone, or they're a threat to where you are in your position, then you're going to think about, how do I set this person up? How do I get them out of my way? Rather than, how do I strengthen my skills and my mindset so that I feel confident that I'm going to get where I'm supposed to be, regardless of who's around me.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And we didn't, we have to use this word. We have to talk about this. I think it's used too much and inappropriately. Is it gaslighting? Is it gaslighting? If your boss says to you, here's the behavior, here's what I'm seeing, you need to do this and you need to correct this. Wait a minute. Now you're questioning whether or not your reality is your reality. If it comes out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, right. And then you're like, well, I didn't think that, but at the time when I chose to do X, Y, and Z, but maybe somebody could see it differently. All right. We question. The first thing we always do is question ourselves instead of question the other person.
100%.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's such a gray area because then she leaves going, maybe I do suck, right? Maybe I don't deserve a good review, maybe, instead of saying, what's like the underlying reason for this review to be coming at me the way it is? Because I know I'm a good worker.
That is actually she said, this is not accurate. This is not fair. This is not true. And okay, so she's strong enough and confident enough that she knows that, but I don't know. I think it's bullying. I do. And the reason why I brought that up was because I was talking to a different friend, and this other friend has a large group. She's responsible for a whole region, whole seaboard. And she was talking about somebody and she said, they're bullying her. And I'm like, this was interesting. I go, wait a minute, I gotta take notes. So how is this person being bullied that's on your team? Specifically, what's the behavior, right? So she said they are trying to derail her. They are blacklisting her, and they are speaking to her mean, and they're belittling her. So I'm like, yeah, that's bullying at work. Plain and simple.
So Nancy, what do you do about that? Like, who do you go to, like, in a situation like that? And what if you can't? What do you do?
Well, so here's what I would say. And I know you had a client that was bullying you, didn't you? That was belittling you. Remember we talked about that? Yeah. So how'd you handle it?
So the issue was this particular person had a really hard time giving feedback. So so interesting. I just talked about this recently. I think I didn't talk about it. I just talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
And she basically really got nasty. Like, just saying, like, I don't know how to write, and she's a journalist and she expected more than that, and all of this stuff, all because she was uncomfortable. And I know from a third party, that's what it came down to, was that she was uncomfortable giving feedback. So rather than saying, you know what, I'm really uncomfortable about it, how can we work around it, she just was mean to me and said, I don't want to work with you. And so I decided that, what was I going to do? I was like, first of all, gift for this person to be saying, let's end our stuff together, because did I want to continue on working with somebody like that? Like,
no, you did not. Bye, Felicia.
Because I'm pretty flexible. If you're working with me, I want you to be happy and I want to work it out, and I'm going to do my research and my work and but it's a collaborative process. Anyway, I just sent a, finished contract, and I was like, I am out of here. But I'm still curious today. Like, it was just interesting. She just thought the first draft was going to be absolutely perfect and done and sound exactly like her. And that never happens, folks. There's always a little back and forth. And
of course. Yeah. So she was belittling you. You know what I was thinking of? It wasn't you. It was someone you know. And I don't know if you can talk about it. It was a man.
Yep.
Yeah. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah. Let's go in a roundabout way. So I know someone who was doing some freelance work for business owners, really beautiful visual art, and ended up taking a job with somebody that right from the beginning gave them a hard time about pricing and, sizing. And part of the job that needed to be done that this person normally does themselves was being done by somebody else for free. And so it was not done the way it needed to be for this type of art. And so this person had to work around that, which they very graciously did in a number of ways, were very flexible and said, you know, these are the ways where if we want a lower cost that we can do it, and was just extremely accommodating. But I think right from the word go, the person who hired them was unrealistic about the pricing and agreed to the pricing knowing that they were going to belittle this person a little bit at a time, hoping to back them down from the price. And towards the end of the work, when it was almost done, we're saying things like, this work, if this is your best, like, I don't know if you should keep doing this. And just really, and you know, this is visual work. So it's right in front of you. And you can like going, this is great. Like, you know, dealing with some difficult situations and everything else. In the end, it was just a really, really well done thing. And this person didn't pay the final invoice, which was a good chunk of change. And so they are going after this person, and this person is now not even responding to like legal.
Brutal.
And so it's just, but you could just tell at the end, it was like, you know, I could have hired somebody, you know, like from an online, you know, thing who didn't say they have the skills that you said you had for a third of the price and got better work than this. And really corner that person and saying things to them when they were alone that they wouldn't say when there were other people around. So just really trying to be intimidating. And this friend of mine was really like, I don't want anything to do with this person. I said, you know, well, that's a shame because A, we all deserve to get paid or to at least negotiate. And B, you know, if you don't stand up for yourself, you're going to not feel good when it's all over. Like I feel you deserve to feel vindicated, even if you spend that much money hiring a lawyer to get that money back, because this person's going to do it again. Right. So
it almost sounds like a negotiation tactic. So I was thinking about a couple things when you were talking, because bullying in negotiations is very common, and we'll talk about that in a second. So if you work for yourself, you can fire your client. You have the luxury of working with whoever you want to work with.
Right.
Excuse my voice, podsters and Beth. So one of the things I do, and I'm not saying that your friend did anything wrong here. One of the things I do is that I vet everybody I work with. So and we talked about this, I think maybe in the M&M's episode. You know, M&M Mars was, oh no, it wasn't this. So anytime I get hired for a keynote, particularly on International Women's Day, the first thing I do is go to the company's C-suite and see how many women are in the C-suite. Because are they doing this for the optics, or are they doing this because they really want to promote the advancement of women? And if I look and it's mostly men with very few women, then I have some hard conversations with the people that are hiring me. Same thing with my one-on-one coaching, right? So there's a brief but thorough questionnaire before I talk with people about my pricing. Speaking of which, there's a link to that questionnaire in the show notes. My 2-month one-on-one coaching is open. So if you're interested in some coaching from me personally, highest energy exchange, best way to get the quickest results, click the link and fill out the questionnaire. The reason I do that is because I need to make sure it's a fit. So I wonder if your friend had done some kind of an onboarding or pre-onboarding. Let's get to know each other before we do this engagement. I mean, listen, sometimes if it's freelance, you just want the job. Like, it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to dinner with this person. I'm doing a job for them. But it's important to make sure that your clients are the right clients for you. And if they're not, to just know when to say, I don't think this is a fit, or I can fit it into my schedule 9 months from now. And so they're walking away from you. You're not walking away from them. So whatever the case may be. Yeah, that was a tangent. So how to handle it. So in every situation, I would say the number one way to handle it at first is to document everything that is happening. So have you seen that woman on TikTok, who she's from Massachusetts, actually. She was on a Zoom call. She was the client. It was a Zoom full of men, and they were making comments about her in the chat. And it was the chat, so she saw it. So when she called back to talk about the status of the relationship and said, I will not work with anybody that was on that call, and I want a female client service rep. That's documentation right there. So if you have what I'm saying is, if it's a Zoom call, record it, or record it with your phone, or whatever. But there's all kinds of legal implications there. There are, you know what? I don't care. I don't care. What I used to do is I used to just write everything down, like in my little legal pad. I'd have the date and the time. And by the way, that's all you need in a court of law is the date, the time, what was said, and what happened. That's it. That's all you need. You can, wherever you take your notes. So I would document. If you are in the corporate world, this is going to take some consideration on your part. Go to your boss, maybe. If it is your boss, go to a trusted advisor. And or when do you get human resources involved, right? So you need to be ready for the shitstorm that will come your way if you get HR involved. And I don't mean, I mean in terms of now it's not just between the two of you anymore. You get HR involved, there are things they have to do to make sure that you feel safe and that it's a safe working environment for you. So that's a door that once opened, you can't close it again.
Right.
But the first thing I would document, but before HR, I would try to handle it myself, and I would set some boundaries, and I would probably say something along the lines of, when you say this to me, it makes me feel like this, and that doesn't feel good. So I'm going to end the conversation if you keep talking to me like that. Or I would say, I feel like you're bullying me, and I'm not sure if that's your intent. Is it?
Right.
I mean, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You call them out on it.
Yes. It's funny. This is obviously very different than corporate situation, but when my kids were younger, if they would come home and say, so-and-so said this, or so-and-so did this, or, my friend was bullied today or whatever, I'd say, what you really need to do is to go up to somebody and say, did that make you feel good? Did that make you feel good to say that to me? Or to hurt someone's feelings like that? Like, do you like how that feels? Or, and they of course looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, seriously, like, what's the point of that? Who feels good about talking to somebody like that? And one of the things I wrote down for here, I think, which can be at any age, is that, if you can take a step back and just try to think about or put together factually, why is this person bullying? Right? Because I feel like many times it's because they've been bullied or they're coming from some sort of trauma or something like that, and they have never dealt with it.
Yeah.
They have poor self-esteem, or they are really poor communicators. Like, maybe they were taught to, communicate with their fists or their eye rolls or whatever, which could be men or women, or criticism or teasing, or oftentimes people are taught to say the most, difficult thing because then you shut down the other person. Like, people have seen a lot of stuff, right? We've all seen a lot of stuff there, and we're triggered by it. But I think when you can understand what is causing the bullying, you can be less reactive, and then you can use that in your own strategy in handling the situation.
So I really like that in theory. I don't know if that would work for me personally. And I think it depends on the situation and the level, because you're absolutely right. They've probably been bullied. There's a trauma, low self-esteem. They're acting out. What I wrote down is they hurt, so they hurt others, right?
Yes.
And that's painful, right? I don't want anybody to hurt.
Right.
And also at the same time, I don't know that would make me feel any better. I don't know if I'd be able to handle it any better. I don't. No. I don't know. I think it's definitely worth a shot. Definitely worth a shot. I just don't know if it would. I don't know. So the reason why I'm saying I don't know is because I'm thinking about the example that I gave in my community. And when I was in college, first of all, I think I weighed 217 pounds, 217 pounds, and I'm 5'5". So I was slightly overweight, one could say. So I was bullied as a kid in junior high, and I remember it clearly as if it was yesterday. I don't know why I was bullied. I don't really know. Like, why pick on me? Like, maybe it was because I was confident. So then fast forward, I was in my 20s, early 20s, going to Boston University for a degree in hotel management. And I wanted to be CEO of a big hotel company. I wanted to own my own restaurant. And somebody very close to me, who I looked up to and admired, a family member actually, said to me, "You'll never end up more than," I talked about this last week, "You'll never end up as more than a fast food manager." And again, nothing wrong with being a fast food manager. People need to do what they need to do to pay the bills. In this context, this was me being really excited about going out and getting this degree. And this was 30 years ago. What, 30 years ago? 30 years ago. I know exactly where I was. I know exactly how I felt. And I'm still talking about it 30 years later. I mean, I didn't talk about it for like 30 years, but so, and my point is, that drove me and that fueled me. And that's what the newsletter was about. I forgot we talked about it last week. So for those of you who listen every week, A, we love you for listening every week. And B, thank you for your patience as I go through the story again, because some people might not have heard it. So it impacts all of us. And I believe I brought that to my career. I believe in the back of my head, it kept replaying and replaying and replaying. This is all you'll ever be. This is all you'll ever get to. I mean, that's awful. So this is what it was. When I was giving that keynote and this woman found it difficult to hear the compliment, I thought about, what has someone said to her? Or how has she been treated? And it really, I was like, oh my God, it brought me right back to that moment, because it was devastating. It was devastating. So the reason that I'm bringing it up again is because I think it informs and shapes how you live your life. And you have a choice, right? You have a choice. By the way, the kids that bullied me at school, both of them, losers today. Okay? Losers. There's no other word for it. There's no other word for it. And I hope they listen. Lose. How do you like me now?
That's
So,
right. So in other words, what you're saying is, in the dictionary, their faces are there.
Yeah, that's what I meant. She's making me laugh. So my point is, you have two choices. You can listen to these tapes in your head,
right,
like this woman did, and has been, or you can say, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. So you can use it to fail you or fuel you, right?
Yep, absolutely. So I would love to jump in, because oftentimes we say things and they bring me back to, we did an episode, folks, called The Happiness Curve, and it actually is our top thing. And I think that, like, in a situation like this, generally with age and experience and confidence, these sort of things bother you less and less. But like, when you're heading towards the bottom of the curve, this is the stuff you're dealing with to get the momentum to swing back up years later in your life. And you get past these things, is all I'll tell you. Or you try to, or you do somewhat. It gets better. And and I already said the thing I wanted to say.
Great.
Sorry. Yeah, I said, know what's causing the bully. I wanted to refer to the happiness curve, really. That's what I wanted to say. I did want to say something else.
Can I respond to your last comment first?
Yes, please. Please.
I don't know that you get past it. I think it's semantics. I'm 30 years later.
But
and it's still,
but you're living with it, and you're living with it. It has not held you back. You got what you wanted. You remember it. It's not going away.
Right. It hasn't held me back, but that's me. So what about the woman last week, right?
Right.
That's what I'm saying is that's my choice. I took it, and that's what I did with it. So, for everybody that's carrying that stuff around, the big Samsonite suitcase, I'm not saying to throw the suitcase away. I'm not saying to lose it in baggage claim. I'm saying get the suitcase to work for you. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Shrink that suitcase down.
Yeah, baby. What else did you want to say?
I wanted to talk about, like you were saying, harm, intimidate, and coerce. I think the tricky part is that when we hear the word harm, that we might think physically first, but it's the psychological and emotional harm that don't leave outright scars or broken bones or whatever that people can't see. So sometimes it's often difficult to convince other people that there is harm in this situation when it's emotional and physical, right? And it becomes this kind of gray area. And that's when you really have to know who your board of directors is and know who you really go to, they're not going to say, well, are you sure they didn't mean this? Or are you sure they didn't mean that? This person's going to say, you know what? That's not true. You don't need to be treated that way. And can I help you? Can I go with you to talk to whoever it is you have to talk about?
Yeah. And that's the boundary again. Beth, when you said that to me, that was hurtful and harmful to me. So I'd appreciate it if you don't use that kind of language with me again. Right?
You had to tell everybody.
I'm role playing. So Podsters, that was a lot to unpack. That might be our longest episode ever.
Wow, it is long.
So we had a few takeaways. It was, if you're in the corporate world, document it. Listen, even if you never use it, and this is at home too, by the way, if you're in a terrible marriage and your spouse is bullying you, which happens, right? Write it down. Write it down.
Every detail.
I'm telling you, people, okay? Maybe get HR involved, set boundaries. If you need help with that boundary setting, reach out to either one of us. We will gladly help you. So this episode was kind of a little depressing. Let's talk about next week and our special surprise for our special guest next week in honor of Valentine's Day.
Our special guest.
We're going to talk about how to engineer a life you love. Yep. So our next episode is how to engineer a life you love. A little lighter topic. And then also Beth and I are getting together next week. Podsters, you are on this journey with us. Oh, we didn't talk about LinkedIn Live. LinkedIn Live is a work in progress. So
stick with us. Stick it out with us.
We did one. We couldn't download it. It was very stressful. So topics, ideas, feedback. We have a planning session to talk about the podcast. So please reach out to us, email, the socials. I've been getting a lot of emails from people talking about the podcast. So keep those coming, everyone. We love you. We hope you're not being bullied. We hope this didn't bring up too much bad things. And we hope that your takeaway is that this doesn't mean anything for you. It's how you deal with it, and it's how you use it.
Right. And how you can help someone else who's dealing with it.
Definitely.
All right.
Okay, Podsters, we will see you next week with a lighter, funner topic. We love you.
Bye.
That's a wrap, Podsters. If you were thinking of someone as you were listening to this, share it. If you nodded along and even shouted out a couple of yes, leave us a review. Please, please, please. If you want to make sure you don't miss next week's episode, hit that follow button.
And you can find us everywhere. And if you would like to learn more about us and exactly what we do, take a look in the show notes for our deets. See you
next week.
Podsters.